This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We've come off of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and looking into what exactly that means and looking at festive seasons where we see some of these rates actually go up. So let's look into some of this this morning. But before we do, Dennis is going to share today's proverb and we'd love to get your interpretation of it.
So our proverb this morning comes from the continent, pretty much. Our proverbs come from Africa. But this one now, we've been doing it a little bit differently, focusing on issues. And this one talks about fairness. So I'll just go straight into it and you will get an opportunity to interpret. Remember, interpretation is not wrong. All right? Yeah, so in the bundle of wolves, a sheep can never get a fair hearing. Like, how would you interpret it?
Now it's like you know what I'm going through right now. As I'm here, actually, we are having a swearing in of a candidate for the biggest professional body in Kenya, Kenya Counseling Psychological Association. And one of us actually tried to appear a woman, female. And she was getting her reply very late in the night. And the swearing in happening now. And these are professionals, so I saw her so alone. So I'm also saying at times the way I would interpret it is you're going through something and then one person maybe says something and then everybody starts looking at it negatively. You're all alone.
Victoria.
I'm thinking it's like having a piece of pork and wanting to sell it outside a mosque.
Yeah.
You won't get anywhere.
You won't get anywhere.
Yes.
I don't even think you'll get there.
You may not.
Yes.
Well, okay. So, every year we ask the question, every year we have the conversation, every year we commemorate the 16 days, but every year the numbers seem to be increasing and the situation seems to be getting worse. The victims are younger and older, and the grotesque nature of violence, gender-based violence, is increasing. And it's not girls anymore, it's boys too. And we are seeing terrible things happening. And we've also seen that during holiday periods, during festivities, during times where people are away from their normal, beat of the day, we're also seeing that this violence, this abuse increases. And the severity of it then also increases. So now we are at another cycle at the end. And I just have to ask, maybe from both of you as we start this, what gains have we made if the numbers are increasing and the acts are getting worse? Where have we gone with this? We'll start with you, Majiko.
I think we need to appreciate the fact that speaking out more gets us somewhere. The more we speak up, the more action there is. For example, now if you walk into a police station, there's a gender officer, there's someone addressing that. I'm speaking out of experience because I have walked into a police station. I'm going to report assault and I wasn't assisted. Things have changed. So we have to appreciate the strides that have been made as far as handling abuse and the authorities coming to our help for the abused, yes.
So it's getting better because people are speaking about it more?
Speaking about it more and having authorities handle it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are authorities handling it?
It's better now. I'm comparing. Yes.
Okay.
It's better now.
Do it for us. How are they doing it better now than they did it before? How are they handling it better now than they did before?
I'll go back to my example. I walked into a police station and said I was assaulted. And I was asked where is a P3. So I didn't have any physical marks to show that the assault had happened. And I felt so helpless because there was nothing to show, yet the assault had happened. But right now, if you walk into a police station, there's a gender officer who will address whatever the issue is. They will try and assist you. Back then, there wasn't that wasn't available.
Yeah.
Yes.
Daktari, as we talk about the gender desk at police stations today, I mean, it is a process, it's a journey that started way back, and it is a journey that started with all the stakeholders coming on board and saying how best to be able to address or deal with such issues. And even when we have survivors, victims walking in, one of the best ways rather that have been documented is, first of all, dealing with the mental space of an individual for them to be able to go through the processes easily, even just being able to sit down and write that statement. How critical is it when we have these gender desks, or we have individuals even in hospitals who understand the process well in terms of documenting and even assisting the victim or the survivor at the time?
I think that's very critical, because gender-based violence is considered one of the most traumatic experiences one can go through. And her mentioning about the gender desk and the gender officers there, I support one in Thika where I live. And one of the challenges I have seen, even if we have very good guidelines on GBV survivor case management process, we still are lacking professionals in that area. And I am a counseling psychologist, but I could have a specialization in parenting. But when we talk about gender-based violence, you must be well-grounded in trauma-focused therapy. And anyone who is in that office needs to have the skills. But how do they even appoint them? How do they place them there? Have they gone through that training? And because I work in one and I try to support them in the best way that I can, but I look at it, I say, yes, it's helping because somebody knows you cannot just violate anyone. But at the end of the day, I see them overwhelmed, very overwhelmed. And so they send some of these cases to our centers. So as much as we've made a very good step in that direction, we need professionals there. Why do I say that? Gender-based violence trauma, if it's not processed and you don't heal, then you cannot be sure that tomorrow you'll not violate someone else.
Yeah.
And that includes the very innocent ones like your children, either knowingly or unknowingly. So for me, I would say, let us know that trauma is real. And those people who man those desks, they need to be trained. And they don't have to be trained like some of us, 2 years, 3 years, 6 years, 10 years. There are those skills that are very specific on GBV, trauma, recovery, and healing. And that should be done. So if the authorities are coming in, Vicky, let them also come in to give capacity building for the people they have given them a mandate to be in those offices. Because I still see these people, when they are sent to us, I still see the wounds. And maybe it's after they've seen the children behaving. Everyone gets touched by children. Because I don't think any child in any part of this world needs to suffer because of the problems of their parents or the people around them or the community around them.
Yeah. So, Vicky, we look at a situation where you walk into a police station to report a matter and you say you left there sad, defeated, pretty much because there was no assistance where you ran to. But here you are today speaking up, and one would say the best way to deal with trauma is by sharing it, so that you get the assistance that you need.
Yes.
And as you speak today, what's the impact of that, especially to those in your circle who, for not some weird reason, due to an inability, because you also can't force someone to get out and speak, but what's the impact in terms of encouraging survivors to just get up and speak up and raise awareness so that at the end of the day, we can achieve that promise by President Uhuru Kenyatta at the time that GBV would be a thing of the past this year?
I would say the impact has been really good around me. So I'll speak from experience. Those around me, I love to write a lot. I've written a book. I actually went and compiled my Facebook posts and turned them into a book because I used to write about my experiences, good and bad. But as far as GBV goes, I would say the responses I got from the people who read the stories I write, and people will say, thank you for speaking about this. I could never speak about this. Shame is a big thing. There's a lot of shame associated with GBV. So when I write and someone tells me, thank you for giving voice to this, or when I say I left that toxic marriage and someone tells me that you give me permission to do it because I saw you do it. Because especially women, when you have children, they find it very hard to walk away from a toxic relationship. Mostly they say it's financial, but I feel like sometimes you just need to take a leap of faith. There's always solutions for everything. So for me, it's given me power. And around me, I can see very good impact around the women around me. Yes.
If we look over the last couple of years, let's look from when COVID, knocked, and then there were lots of people at home because we were not moving. We saw some of the highest cases in terms of numbers, in terms of what was happening with people. I mean, we had highest cases of teenage pregnancies ever recorded in some counties in this country over that period. We saw defilement cases go through the roof. And this was because people were at home. The trajectory changed. So people moved from where they normally were doing something in a particular space. And so then people were at home, idle, in a lot of cases. And then as we see, that became it became the devil's workshop for real, because we saw the cases. But we also saw the advocacy around these cases, and I don't mean advocacy in a good way, because a lot of these cases did not make it to the courtroom. They were settled by people whereby it was okay that an uncle did this to a young girl, and the family would say, okay, well, let's have a conversation about it and put it to bed. These are the people who show up in your office, Daktari, later on in life and are not really sure what's going on. We're looking at cases of a mother who doesn't know her child is being abused in church by a worker in a room somewhere. We're looking at cases of a boy who hangs himself in a room because he's sodomized by his teachers in a boarding school. These are real cases of Kenyans today. And when we say that we are handling it, how much better can we do? Because what you deal with, Daktari, is that you deal with, unfortunately, and we'll come back to you, Anjuku, a little bit, because you talk about it and then you say that one of the ways in which you can shed the shame is by talking about it for people to understand. But can we say that we are dealing with it if the people who come to you have been through the trauma and they've been through the damage? You're trying to put them back together, essentially. Are we dealing with it?
That's just a part of it. Because why is it not ending? For me, the buck stops with the legal system. Because if this was taken very seriously, that no chief is bribed to hide this, no family member is ashamed to talk about it, and no justice is denied for the victims. And it's broadcasted, Let people know it. Because it's very sad, because I have also dealt with children, especially vulnerable children. Although the justice system, part of it, the children's court is trying. Because there's one time I had a whole lot of magistrates and I asked them, a 5-year-old who is sodomized and blindfolded doesn't know that if there's blood oozing out of their private parts, it's not a knife that cut them. So they go and say, I was cut by a knife by Uncle so-and-so. And the court says, where is that knife? And this is where we come in, the psychologists, because we do the screening. We do the psychological assessment. And children tell their stories differently. And for me, as you talk about the cases that come to us, do you know adults, unlike Victoria here, are very ashamed of talking about it, whether it's psychological, whether it is that emotional abuse. But children are vulnerable and innocent. They will talk, they will draw, right? So if we are not there, and I want you to watch documentaries of GBV cases, especially done in the Western countries, you will never miss the input of a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a social worker. How is that networking working here? You will see the UN Women having very good programs on the same. But when we come back home, is that working? Is there funding for this? Even if we receive pro bono legal services, how long can you do pro bono services and you went to school? Is there funding for that? So if the system is there on paper and it is not there in practice, that we say when theory does not meet practice, then there's no intervention happening that you can call effective. So we still have those cases, and it's sad. You mentioned COVID-19 pandemic. That was just one phase that showed how angry people are and how much they have bottled in, and there was no outlet at that time but the loved ones next to them. So if people were going to work to bury their emotions there, and no, that time there was no opportunity to do that. If you're going to church, the mosque, the temple to praise and worship, there was no opportunity. And so you showed the true colors at that time. What did we do? What did the system do? And the people who come to us, by the way, especially professionals, it's very sad. It's those who can afford. What about the poor? And those living in those poor neighborhoods, they are the most affected. Right now, we're running a program in Kiandutu slum just to make sure, because I worry and I'm more concerned about children. Because if you are violated as a child, a teenager, as an adult, and no help was given to you, you do not negotiate any other stage later in life in an effective way. And relationships in your life later on, they don't work out. But where do you trace that?
So I'd love to interject. I am that child because I was sexually abused at 5 years old, at 8 years old, and as a young adult.
Wow.
So I represent a demographic. I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I represent a demographic of adults who've been assaulted as children. And now we are adults here. We are. So what do we do?
Right.
Maybe my story is different because I decided to look for healing for myself. I've done a lot of self-work. And part of it also is writing. Writing my book has given me a voice to, talk about it and deal with it. But there are so many, I can tell you, there's so many women who tell me, it was, like in my case, it was a family member. It was a neighbor. It was a colleague when I was a young professional. So I don't know.
Vicky, I mean, you stated how writing about it, talking about it is one of the ways for you to deal with it. But if you listen to what Dr. is saying, there is need of that professional input to deal with the trauma that no one understands apart from the victim themselves. Have you sought professional help?
Yes,
How big of a change has that been? And how has that then even given you credence to continue writing with the help of the professional assistance? And as we talk about it now, here's a question where you look at the young people, children who are told, ukiongea nitakumaliza.
Yes. I was that child. I was told by the adults who violated me that I couldn't speak, so I did not speak. And it took crisis as a young adult to realize this is destroying me. But you see, unfortunately, in fact, there's a time I was wondering, is it written on my face, that I can assault this one? But those patterns keep repeating and repeating until the day you will address them. So yes, for me, I sought help. I sought professional counseling. I sought like extensively. It's not a year or two, it's something. And right now, even after going through all the counseling, I have a life coach. Like for me, I feel like it has to be ongoing. It never ends. But it's given me now, I would say, should I say, I'm normal? You know, I can speak about it without crying. I'm confident.
I don't think
have
there was
no
anything
shame.
abnormal about not being able to do that. Well, I don't think that you were abnormal because you didn't speak about it. It didn't make you less of a human being. I mean, it's a traumatic experience, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic experience that you go through. And in your case, unfortunately, severally. So then, and it's interesting that she said that, Daktari, because, she thinks that she was abnormal because she couldn't speak about something so traumatic. But she wasn't, was she?
She was not abnormal.
Yeah.
She's just a normal young soul going through an abnormal. That was above her, you know? And the threats. And that's what I worry about children. We have to teach them to speak up.
Yes.
Because adults, by the way, when they are violated over 18 and they come for therapy immediately, they heal faster. But for children, like she's saying, it's what we call psychotherapy, serious. Counseling and psychotherapy are two different approaches to intervention psychologically. And for her, when people keep seeing her going to a life coach or even a counselor, they may even say, oh, you haven't healed yet, right? Because it was planted when she was very young. So you can imagine the damage on the brain processes. So the rewiring that brain takes time. And so anybody who is violating another person, if you have that human heart, do you know how costly it is? Emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritually. Because if I could tell everybody to keep their hands off anyone, their mouth that is abusive of anyone, I'm telling you then we would enjoy life. But I don't think we do. Because people like us now, let me talk about the professionals. Again, they are like the children. You will be violated, but how do you talk? What will the world say about you? All right? Yeah. And I think we need to just rise above shame. Look at the people who've come out. Maybe you're high profile and you say, this has happened to me from a human face. And this is how it has affected me. How many people you change today? How many lives are you going to change? Many, because you've told your story. But what I worry about is social media, where you find there are other people who are sick in their own way, and you post there. I'm surprised that nobody ever said anything negative on your post. Because I watch a lot, even on TikTok. Someone says, oh, my husband did this. Or some even videotape and they show us what's going on. And somebody, you can see the comments, and another one creates content with that. So do you think we're even fully aware of what we are doing to one another?
I think, Daktari, that is where I think rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
Because when you speak about GBV, many look at it from this perspective of Victoria has talked about it, or the government moved into a certain community where FGM was working, and now there's these arrests that have happened. But you never really pause to think in terms of, are we having these conversations in our homes? Are we having these conversations among our communities? So that at the end of the day, the young and the old are all in this conversation, because there are stereotypes that do exist. There are communities today where a young girl will feel less of a woman because they've not gone through FGM. Simply because that community has stereotyped women who've not gone through that, and she feels left out. The other day I was watching something again on TikTok, and an individual in the United States of America was saying live on camera the way right now during winter, this festive season, is when their girls in the United States are going through FGM. I watched that and I was like, yo, how? Social media. So are we having these conversations in our spaces?
I doubt.
Are we? And if not, shouldn't that then be where the focus is, even from the macro level, government looking down and ensuring that these conversations start from, again, bottom up?
Yeah, and I think this is where community-based counseling comes through. And who are these people who are going to offer community-based counseling? These are the lay helpers. These are the volunteers in the community who have a heart for other people. But who is going to train them? And even how many can you train? Like, I have trained about 16 Thika because of a slum I grew up in, and I saw this violence you're talking about. And I thank God, I don't know how I escaped, honestly. But I saw it, and that is what we call vicarious PTSD. Though it is not as traumatic like the first-hand experience, vicarious also can affect you. And so people keep even asking, why do you still go back to the slum? It's like going back to your own, mess.
Yeah.
But it's those kids, I look at them, honestly, and I'm like, I'd rather have them confined in a space I know what's happening in their lives. Because I had very close family members. You can imagine, my mom had very beautiful daughters, and how they were violated in teenage, and how their lives were cut short. And so if we can talk about these conversations at that basic society unit, that is the family, let's talk about sex, let's talk about violation that is physical, let's talk about your experiences in school, let's talk. Because if children are empowered, they will speak about it. If young adults, you can imagine young girls and young men, because I want to be very fair, because I get both of them.
Yeah.
Especially at the university or college level. How much violence is happening? How much GBV is happening at universities? How do you talk? How do you go tell your mother you're at UN, right? You're sexually violated,
Well, that's because that we've shunned it at a young age. So are we essentially saying that because of this culture and tradition of not speaking about these things when we're younger, because, children are supposed to be seen and not heard, the issues that you suffer from or the issues that you're curious about, people say, well, we leave that for adulthood. But guess what? You're traumatized when you're a child, 5 years old, 8 years old, and people are still telling you, well, we're not going to talk about that because that's for adults to talk about. But guess what? By the time they're an adult, they've been abused. They've been destroyed. So can we see a direct correlation between keeping this thing silent and then the severity of damage that we see later on that we can do very little to salvage?
Honestly speaking, I'm sure maybe a few people liked you when you talked about it. Some were even telling you, stop now, right?
Yeah,
Don't go,
I feel said it's shameful.
You're exposing the family.
Yes.
It's your life.
Yes, I want to cut them off.
Yeah, I want to tell those listening to us, at the end of the day, it's you living that life. It's not them. It's not your mother. It's not your father. It's not your auntie. It's not your uncle. It's not your teacher. It's not your grandma or grandfather. It's you. And I guess that is why we need to empower the individual. Whether it's the child, whether it's that wife, that husband, because men, they're even the worst. Because especially our culture, you have to man up. Men have been violated.
Kauka
kama, sijui ni sabuni ama ni muti.
Then you break.
Yeah.
And then now you're finding men drinking silly and you're like, hey, huyu mtu hata ananga kazi ingine ya kufanya. But that man is even imagining, how do I even talk about this? And I want to be very, very proud of those men who have come out, even if they've not come out in the open like Victoria, even coming for therapy. And even telling me, this wife of mine, I'm happy we are finally here. We are here. And in most cases, men are brought by the said women. And then the women come because they are complaining, you are not doing ABCD. And then the man says, thank God we are here now. If it is talking like this, let me also talk.
Yeah.
So it's just talking. It's having candid conversations.
Yes.
Because for men, we may not have the muscles maybe to beat them up, although some of us do have. But we can damage psychologically, emotionally, and put in shame, especially with words. Women are very good at verbal abuse. and they know where to hit men.
And they hit it right.
Yeah.
Vicky, I mean, let's look at, you've mentioned the 3 instances where the violations happened, right? Why was it difficult for you to, in your own deduction, the first instance, second, until the third time when you came up to speak, just so we paint a picture of why it was difficult then, and it got to a point where you decided to finally speak up as a child, as a young adult?
Mm-hmm. As a child, when you're threatened and told not to speak, I remember I was told my violator showed me a knife and told me if I speak, and he just did this with the knife. So I knew there were dire consequences, you know. So as a child, I really didn't have a voice, so to speak. But as a young adult, when it happened, that's when I took action. Actually, that was my turning point. I was 24 years old. That was my turning point because I sought help, like she said, at least for young adults, you can seek for help immediately. I sought help immediately. But then the long journey started because these wounds, you've carried them for years. You know, age 5 to age 24, 20 years of, you know, these wounds. So it was much easier as a young adult to seek for help. And it was very difficult, but it's possible to overcome.
See, Doc, when you talk about the numbers, I was just looking up something here, and GVRC recorded around 4,000 GBV cases a day. They say they get about 4,000 cases. If you look at between 2024 and 2025, we're recording around close to 600 cases a year. And you just look at how many days you have in a year, and that would tell you 2 individuals get violated every day in this country. When you talk about 4,000 cases,
And that is GVRC.
GVRC, just GVRC. There are also those that are not reported.
Yeah.
There are those who are reported at the police never get to GVRC.
Oh, yes.
And let's just break it. Let me break hearts. When you talk about 4,000 people, as you speak right now, we're talking about 4,000 individuals who are dead because of road accidents. Let's just look at that number, 4,000. If you line up 4,000 people in this country, those are enough people to put a member of parliament into office. That's just in terms of what these numbers mean. And these are 4,000 individuals who are in our societies, who are damaged, who are hurt, and work with us on a daily basis with the pain and difficulty on a daily basis. Would you say that even as we speak of universal health care, that we have not put in place resources to deal with this problem that we have as a country?
You know, I always laugh because I don't think psychological help has been taken seriously. But she is a witness. Because if my brain is rewired from maybe to recover from GBV trauma, then you've opened up everything I need to be the best version of myself. And that's why she can be able to write a book. I'm sure she speaks to many people about it, girls, and especially the little ones, and how they can protect themselves. That universal health cover. If you look at, because maybe we have borrowed a lot from the US, UK, wherever, nobody there will miss an opportunity to have psychosocial support. And psychosocial in there, there is counseling or mental health and wellness support. In fact, counselors like us in the US don't look for jobs. The government pays them. They only need to approve you and where you work. I have my colleague in Atlanta. I was telling her, oh, I wish I were here, you know? Here, for you to access the counselor of my caliber, you have to dig deep from your pocket. It doesn't have to be that way. The government right now has the counselors and psychologists board. So it should actually have those licensed because they have provided their competencies and their credentials. They should actually be listed and looking especially at those that have loss and grief because you felt like your child was stolen from you, right? Those who have trauma therapy experiences or competencies, and those who have good grounding on psychopathology, because if she did not seek for counseling services, now you would be blaming her for something else. Because when she said, the cycle continues. Sometimes the people we blame and we say, oh, those people you find, what are they looking for huko Koinange Street? Ni nini wanatafuta? Alichapwa akifanya nini? You know? Then we say, oh, that one is always sex hungry. But you can imagine a 5-year-old whose sexual gonads were activated at that tender age when they were supposed to be doing something else. And the brain is very interesting. If you do not rewire that memory, it keeps it. And it starts working with it. So you find a 10-year-old is showing other kids in the school how to play sex. And you pitch that child senseless. Where did they learn that from?
They saw it somewhere.
So even the teachers, and I was a teacher for many years, even the teachers need training because that is the second home of a child. And if you cannot pinpoint or pick out that child that is violated, whether it's the physical with the marks and of course sexually, which I consider number one worst form of violations against humanity. Because it does not only fracture your mind and your body, it fractures your spirit and your soul. And if you look at people who really would want to do the worst, even during genocide and all that, that is one way that they use. Because they know it will take long. So when I see our leaders, even sometimes using women to do some things that they think because they are vulnerable, we make them do ABCD. I am one person who has. Now, if we go to some probably public event, who shows more of their body parts? It's women. These ones, unless it's a shirt removed and they are dancing hard because they are sweating. So those are the discussions we are supposed to be having.
About what?
When somebody makes fun of my body in a public space.
Yeah.
And I even let it go. I let it go. What have I told that person? You can continue doing it.
The cycle repeated.
Exactly. So for me, I don't see seriousness in these discussions in our spaces. And everybody needs to take position. Even for you discussing this kind of a topic here, it's been bold, you know? Because what we are doing right now, there are people we could be re-traumatizing.
True. Right
now. Because of our story and others who are writing right now their stories. Who's going to handle them? It's going to handle them. 1 hour on air, is that enough? We have the bottom up, the real one, bottom up, where the child is taken care of, that there should be child community counselors. You see this Nyumba Kumi?
Yes.
That they can see this child. And that's what we are doing in Kiandutu with the Mungano Community Counselors Group. They say this one, and then they know to chief. If chief is unable, police station. Just the referral system here, we need to all work together. And I don't think that is happening. Where I have a right, if I have been approved as a community counselor, to actually take care of the members within my space, then the chief needs to know me. The OCS in that place needs to know me. The health officer in that space needs to know me. So that we don't delay justice, we don't delay help. Your P3, how long? I don't know how long you took you to get it. And the child is bleeding. There in Thika, we even say, first take care of this child. We have seen, we have known. And we always say for the best interests of children, because adults, we can take a little bit care of ourselves. Just save that life first and foremost. And believe the child before you even believe anybody else.
So can we deal with this issue? And that's the thing that I think we've gotten to the point where we say, can we actually deal with the issue? Because you said something, if the chief can't handle it, then we go to the police. If the police can't handle it, then what would be the reason why they can't? If we look at other jurisdictions whereby you have things like active lists where there are, pedophiles listed, so that it is public knowledge that you do this to children. It's public knowledge that you are a serial defiler. Everybody knows there's everything but the scarlet letter on your chest, and that we have these conversations that you will. The precedent has been set that we know that you do this. Today, what are we looking at? There are very many cases of come on, there are children who are. As we speak today, and that's what the statistics tell us. But we are not dealing with the issue, and I think we can actually say this boldly today, that we are not dealing with this issue.
But that's true.
That what is disease? What is disease? Disease is dis-ease, lack of ease, lack of comfort. We are growing people in society who are damaged at a childhood level. That's why the team who came out and said this mental health issue is an emergency issue. What does that mean? Something has to be done about it today, not tomorrow. Let's not think about it. Let's not go have a conference somewhere and decide what we are going to do. No. Let's talk about it today, so that across the ecosystem, everybody in the justice system, in the security system, at the community level is plugged into this conversation. But we seem to think, they're children, they'll get over it. No. They're not. They don't. From what you're saying, or that it's a grown-up who's been raped. It's a man who's been sodomized. It's happening, and we can say this. It is happening. But I'm a bit discouraged this morning because we are not getting better. How many 16 days of activism against gender-based violence have we had in the last 10 years?
True.
But the numbers are increasing.
Yeah.
We spend millions around the world, dollars, spend money, go to conferences, talk about it. The societies and communities are involved in these conversations, but it's not ending. If anything, people are bolder. Now we see men, boys, big things that never came out in public before, but they're happening today. But then we have the conversation every December, and then it ends on Human Rights Day, and then we go for Christmas, and then we forget about it, and then we come back in January and we say, 40 women have been killed, or 14 boys committed suicide. Come on. Isn't it about time that we were bold enough to say we are not doing anything about this and we are killing our society?
You've said it. But do you know where the highest, the strongest voice is? Is the president of this nation. That's where power is. And sometimes I feel it when I know the people who have the power are not doing anything. If I am the head of any legal office, any criminal justice office, am I doing my part? If it's me who is supposed to report that this child is violated, do you know what? If you go to the US, UK, her case, it does not matter when it was done.
Yep.
Yes.
You face the law. So here we still have conversations of people who did.
Oh, come on, Dr.
And
We
it
have
was scot-free.
conversations